Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of HR Summer School Fireside Chats. I am so glad you're here. If you're just joining us, don't forget to sign up at hrsummerschool.org because we'll be sharing some free resources, slides, other stuff from our speakers in the coming weeks. We'll also notify you of other contents coming up this week so you don't miss anything that you want to see. Now, let's jump into this conversation. I'm joined by Ann Fulton. She is the CEO over at Fuel50. Ann, welcome to HR Summer School.
Hi, Dan. So cool to be on your summer school here. And I think it's a brilliant innovation. And I think everyone's going to be hungry for some learning over the summer. So yeah, well done.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm excited about it. And thankfully, it's not all on my shoulders. I get to bring some really sharp people like yourself to the forefront to hear what you're doing, to hear the work the perspective you're seeing, because you have some really interesting insights that we'll dig into. But for the audience's benefit, will you stop for a second and tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, founder and CEO of Fuel50. As you said, we had a vision of transforming the employee career experience a few years ago, and literally wrote the book on career agility about 4 years ago. Little did we know how much agility was going to be required, from people today. I don't think any of us expected the amount of resilience and agility and what we need from our workforce today beyond any of our expectations. But I think some of those principles still stand, today as they did, 3 years ago, and probably even more of an imperative than they were, 6 months ago, 3 months ago even.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. And I'm going to talk to you about the agility piece today, because I think that'll be a fun conversation to have. But tell us something that's not in your official bio, something we couldn't go Google Ann's name and find out, something fun about yourself.
Well, I don't know how fun it was, but I'm going to claim that I had COVID-19, right? Because that puts me in the 10%, of the population today. And unfortunately, I've been directly impacted by, COVID-19 with my next door neighbor here in London, really sadly, passing away. And I'm angry at the fact that he's a statistic at, 65, even though he's fit and healthy and amazing. But also, I guess personally being touched by it and having a little bit of a glimpse of the fear and the reality associated with it. So yeah, that's my not so fun fact.
Not fun, but still a fact, still connected to that. And I think it's been interesting to watch how more and more people that I know, at first it was, wow, this is scary, but it seems very remote and removed. But as time has gone on, I found a connection here or there personally through someone that I know, and it like you, it has become more relevant, more meaningful, more touching than it was when it's just an abstract concept. So it's different when there's the face to it that you know and understand. So
I think that spectrum, right? So I mean, I barely had a flu, and my next door neighbor dies, and another friend in intensive care, and another girlfriend in the front line with the NHS, actually dealing with it day to day and getting it herself, and then having to turn back up to work 7 days later, unheard of. So yeah, there's all sorts of spectrums of experience around this. And I think not a single one of us across the globe is untouched, right? It's a common denominator for all of us right now as we're trying to, adjust to a new reality.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of adjusting, I want to talk to you about that a little bit, because that's where you've written the book on it. You spend your days talking to massive employers that are working through this. And so let's talk about agility for a second on that human level, because you referenced that a minute ago. What does that agility look like right now for people that are, people that are listening to this? They're HR, they're talent leaders, they're in the trenches, they're trying to serve their employee base, but also serve the needs of the company. What does that agility look like right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an awful lot of, agility from all of us. And I think we've got to go back to some core principles, that I learned at uni, in Psychology 101, that we're going through kind of a grief cycle as our reality has changed so dramatically. So you're thinking of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and the shock, the denial, the anger, and then even, owning to some depression around it. And we hope to be able to help people to get to acceptance and a new normal where we're getting back to some kind of productivity. But, I think we've got to own, that everyone's going through a spectrum of emotions right now. And, that there's things that we need to do, every single one of us individually, as well as many of us, as leaders and HR practitioners, where, we've got to have a dual lens, both on, our own personal agility and resilience and productivity, as well as that of those around us. So I think we've got to cross that chasm.
was going to say I actually heard, it's interesting you said the grief thing. I didn't expect it to go there, but that's good. I actually heard a psychologist speaking the other day, and he said, you know what? One of the things that we've got to be careful about is judging how others grieve, because some people grieve. Me, I am the first one to crack a joke, to smile, to make, to try to bring a smile to someone else around me, because that's how I deal with that kind of thing. But other people deal with it in a very solemn or other sort of approach. And it seems like I'm being rude, maybe sometimes, things like that. And I try to be sensitive right now, especially with everybody dealing with it. But he said, we've got to realize that everybody grieves differently, and we've got to be okay with that. If someone's grieving and their way of approaching that is, they need to spend a week being quiet, not talking to anybody, just alone. They need to spend time virtually with friends right now, just talking to anyone they can talk to. Everyone handles it differently. And I think that's just a good reminder for us right now that not just, yes, grief's happening, but that everybody approaches it differently.
Yeah, exactly. Creating those connections, and as you say, allowing people to talk and express their feelings, or as you say, or to go quiet and absolutely embrace the isolation if that's what they need to do. And I think in terms of my own personal approach, and I think it's okay to accept it, is that I asked for people to send me as many bad COVID jokes as possible, because that was going to help me cope, right? was the dark humor. And it's actually, a way of finding a means of coping, but it's allowing people to find those individual coping mechanisms. And as a leader, it really is just about asking the question, how are you? What's happening in your reality? And part of me is a little excited about, what we're able to do in terms of connecting with people right now that we weren't able to, even, 6 months ago by reaching into their home lives. You see their dogs or their chickens or their children, pop up into the meetings and, and you get a glimpse of what they're having to cope with. And, everyone is coping with a different reality. Some people that are on their own in little apartments and in new cities, completely isolated, and others have got 6 in their apartment, flatmates or, children that they're trying to homeschool. So, I think there's a real need for that deep sensitivity to what people are coping with. So I've been thinking, sorry,
I was going to say, you said earlier, like this all goes back to that first year psychology class that a lot of us had to take in college, like the basics of how we see these things. But one of the other pieces of that is like the hierarchy of how we process things as humans. Like I need to be safe first before I can be, then I can focus on my whatever else, going up the levels. I can belong. I can feel like I'm included. And then eventually I can be, like we're translating this to the work context, I can really be engaged at work. I can actually focus and be productive and get those things done. But if I'm worried about my kids' health, or I'm struggling to find food or toilet paper, right? Again, sorry, it makes me smile. If we're struggling in those levels, though, those human levels, we can't be engaged and connected at work. We can't bring our best. We can't support people. And it was easy to make assumptions when people are coming to an office. But now, like you said, you get to peer in someone's home. You get to see what it's like, and you get to give them a little bit of grace in their
And it's starting with their individual reality, right? Everyone's reality is, can be uniquely different. And, we've got to help them find a way of contributing and productivity and coping, with their individual realities, which, as you say, can be really, really different. And we've all got to kind of get, back. And from an individual point of view, I've been thinking about it in terms of, thinking like an athlete, right? And an athlete needs to create some routines and some disciplines. They've got to review their performance, and then they've really got to focus on recharge and restoration, as part of their rhythms. And, if we can bring in some of those kind of, daily disciplines, for us individually, it's going to help our, kind of productivity. And one of the things I've been playing with myself, is around routines, because all of a sudden we've got a different routine. We were maybe catching the bus or commuting to work or going to meetings or whatever your reality was, but now we've got a completely different routine that we're having to establish. So then it's kind of thinking about, well, what do I need to create that's going to help me get to high performance and productivity around those routines? And I've been doing a little thing called habit stacking, right? So just simplifying it back, it's when you brush your teeth, then you floss, and then then you do 3 other things, and then you tidy the bathroom. So it's around a habit that's such a discipline that you don't even think about, like brushing your teeth. you add 3 more little disciplines to it, and next thing you know, you're improving your productivity. So that's sitting down at your desk. If you're looking at your routine there, when you sit down, you unclutter, put things away so you've got a beautiful clean space, if that's what works for you. You write down 3 things. So what are the 3 little habits that are actually going to help you improve your productivity on that day, right? So, to me, that number 1 is your routine. And then at the start and the end of the day is like, what worked for me yesterday? What could I have done better? And then at the end of the day, it's like, what have I achieved? What are my wins? What am I actually, where have I had a high performance moment today, and capturing some of those wins so that, you're building that sense of, self-momentum and self-motivation. Because I think, it's easy, with that isolation and depression, you haven't got the energy of people around you. You haven't got that distraction, maybe, or you've got different distractions, e.g. your children or your chickens. I have seen that, right? I keep mentioning the
chickens. You said chickens, and I'm thinking, I haven't been on that meeting, but maybe I need to join it. That would be interesting.
Yeah, it was really fun and cute, but, it was still distracting. But, yeah. And then, from an athlete point of view, the importance of recharging and restoration and, allowing yourself to down your tools. And so I think all of us have had to do a little bit more on that self-care than we would have done, beforehand. So, so easy to grab that glass of wine or that beer or that whiskey or whatever but it's looking, okay, is this really going to help me? And finding perhaps, potentially another routine that might be more, restorative for you, like, getting out for a walk in the evening, or, bit of yoga or whatever it may be, that's actually really going to help you recharge, so that you are going to be at your best. So, those are some of the things that, we're thinking about and pushing out through our software to help people perform at their best through this time. So our software is about, how do you be your best at work, and how do you find your future? And our future is right now, and is a radically different future, but we're still trying to help people find some of those lovely kind of personal coaching disciplines that are helping them be at their best.
So you said yoga a minute ago, and the chicken thing is stuck in my head, and I can't stop seeing a chicken every time I want to talk. But you mentioned the yoga thing, and I saw a team the other day that said, hey, we're actually doing yoga as a team, right? No one would ever come to a yoga studio like as a group and do this for work, right? No one's interested in that. But for a team, they're doing this virtually via Zoom, just the way to have some laughs, right? But also to just do something together that has nothing to do with work at all. And so I'm curious what you're seeing, not that necessarily, but what are you seeing from a bigger perspective, from an organizational or a team perspective? Any customer stories that you could share, like someone doing something that's great right now, positive, uplifting, anything like that you're running across? Because you give some really good tips on personal level, and I love the idea of habit stacking, but I'd love to hear some things, some big picture ideas, maybe from an employer perspective, that some of the people listening could take and say, hey, I could use a piece of that and apply that to our own organization.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's absolutely about, communicating, right? So right now we can't communicate too much to, for our people, or show too much compassion. So, those are the things that have been inspiring for me. And I just know from our own team, the communication side of things is that a lot of my team were working remotely before, but all of a sudden, because our realities are so different, so these little, water cooler catch-ups, all of a sudden have become institutionalized into the business. And I hope that they're going to continue into the future, beyond now, so that, we're really creating those deep connections, with people on a personal level that, we're part of a prior reality, but, are important to people as we're more isolated than we have been in a long time. So to me, it's been about those connections. As far as our team are concerned, we've had to do like 1-minute dance offs. and whoever got the most mentions from their colleagues for actually making valuable contributions. It's all about the C's from our point of view. If you've made a contribution, you get to pick the theme song the following week, right? And then make everyone fun. And it's really energizing. It's quite fun, and if you're really shy, you can turn your camera off, right? It's a cool little energizing moment into people's day. So yeah, those kind of connections to us are more important than ever. And I think from an organizational point of view, right now, we can't communicate too much. It's got to be communicate. It's like so basic, but actually there's no such thing as over communication right now, because, we've got to reach out into people's lives and help them, understand, how the organization's coping. From an employee point of view, they want to get back control and clarity over their life, right? They want some kind of sense of normality and some sort of control, but also clarity about what this next stage is going to look like for them. So no such thing as over communicating. And we had a great guest on our podcast a couple of weeks ago that's worth downloading, and that's Rusty Roof, and he was former VP of talent at PepsiCo, and has created some amazing businesses since then, including Run Coach, so a coaching kind of app. But he was talking about our employees at the moment. It's a bit like a child that's having a nightmare, right? And they think there's a monster under the bed. And that, what do we need to do as leaders, or in that case parents, is actually help them check under the bed, check out the fear, understand what's there, and actually turn on the light and show them that, yeah, okay, we can cope with, what we see around us. I thought that was a great little analogy of, kind of what's going on.
Yeah, well, all of that again, going back to the very first part of our conversation, that humanizes this for everybody else. We've all either been the child with that fear, or we've been a parent of a child with that fear. And so we've like, okay, yeah, I can grasp that. I can understand what that looks like. And we can, once you shine a light on it, figure out, okay, what's real, what's not, how do we adapt? How do we cope? How do we, move through this? But yeah, I like that.
And from the communication point of view, right? I mean, when we started this, kind of mid-March, there were certain things coming at us, but now we're all kind of trying to get understanding as to what, what's the slow reveal of the next stage going to look like, and we're and it's like, oh my goodness, it might not be till August that I can go and visit a restaurant, or so people's fears, the goalposts are moving constantly. So it's really important that we continue that communication as to what this means for us now, what it's going to mean next week, what it's going to mean the week after that. So, it's a huge burden on all of us in HR, and in leadership, as to how we support our people through this so that the organisation survives. But, from our point of view, we're aiming to come out of this, stronger, fitter, faster. That we can be better, we can have better, employee relations as a consequence of this. I think, our personal and our business values all of a sudden become, more and more important than ever, right? We have been tested individually and collectively, around what are those values and how are we going to live them and how are we going to make decisions around, those values. So all of a sudden our business, we're so focused on transparency, right? Talking about the realities that are facing us, and fairness, those principles of, are we all in this together? What are we going to be doing? And looking for that kind of collective response around that, and with compassion. So, we've really, as a business, had to kind of almost redefine what those values are and create, a new charter as we're navigating into this new normal. But with a vision of being stronger, fitter, faster, right? Want to sail out the other side. Yeah.
So if someone wants to connect with you, Anne, wants to learn more about what you're doing, because I realize we're running short on time. I want to be respectful of your time too. If someone wants to connect with you, learn more about what Fuel50 is up to, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so quite easy to find me. I'm Anne with an E at fuel50.com, or www.fuel50.com, and you can find out a bit about, Fuel Futures, which is helping people on those learning journeys as they might be on furlough or looking for a new future, or Fuel Marketplace, which is really around helping a workforce respond with agility to new demands and redeployment of people and getting the right talents and skills into the right places. So yeah, we're pretty easy to find, and got a really amazing passion aligned team that are really on a mission to help organizations navigate into this new agile demanding world that we're facing. But we're focused on it being amazing, and that we think the talent experience is going to be different, but it's going to be better. We believe it's really going to be better. So it's a great chance to kind of get some new thinking around how we're engaging with our talent and the importance of talent to our future. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I was interviewing someone on the podcast the other day, and he said, we talk about this like we're losing work that was this wonderful thing. He said, in a lot of places, it was terrible. Let's use this as a chance to break those things that were terrible, that we didn't enjoy, that were not fun, and look for another way to do this.
Yeah, redefining. We've never had an opportunity to really redefine our work experience as we have right now. So, yeah, I'm an optimist, and I'm looking forward to what is going to come out the other side of this as we re-engage with our people in a new way, better way, real way.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you to you really quick, not just for joining me for the session, because this has been phenomenal. Love talking to you every time I get a chance. Learn something new every time, but also because you offered to give a couple copies of the book for us to give away during the event to people who are asking great questions, that are encouraging collaboration in the chat, things like that throughout the event. So we'll be grabbing a handful of people who are really being engaged in the chat in the event, and we'll be sharing that information so that Anne can give away some of her books, because it's phenomenal. Actually, it's on the shelf back there somewhere. I should have had it on my desk for me right here, Annie, but it's right there it's on the shelf. I've read it, have enjoyed the book, and it's a really great piece. So thank you again for joining me, Anne. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Ben. Yeah, and best of luck with the summer school.
Thank you. To everyone else, stay tuned for more HR Summer School coming right up.
Awesome.